Hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
We're having technical difficulties at the minute, and that's probably that's the technical difficulties right there, as aptly
Technical
demonstrated.
difficulty. Yeah, my internet is it's a new one. Have I frozen?
You were for a moment. You're just going.
Ah, I
Anybody
see.
anybody with screen capture tonight? You might have plenty of chances to get more images.
I'm just going to do this the whole time. I'm through. Right. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. It's the weather. I always blame the weather when the internet's not.
Which makes no sense really. I mean, now you're frozen again with the cup
It
of tea
does.
in front of your face. Not working. It's not working today. The internets are not playing ball. So I think what we'll have to do, I think Robin's going to go and try and kick his router and see if that helps in some way and see if he can debug things.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna. Oh, are you back again? Back again?
I'm back again. I don't know what to do. It's like it's not a problem.
It's quite a big problem. Don't know if you can hear me, Rob. Maybe try go and boot the router, see if that does anything. I guess. Anyway, whilst Robin goes to try to sort out his technical difficulties, hello everybody. Who have we got on the channel tonight? We've got in here, we've got Mr. Marlowe. Congratulations, Mr. Marlowe, on your nuptials. I hope you
All
get to
right.
go away soon. Just random noise from Rob there. We've got a drop bear in the house, very dangerous. We've got VJ, we've got James Milne, we've got Lazarus, we've got David Henderson, John Grant, Wolfman Gaz, Horned, the Horn Rat Minis. Can't even talk now properly. Some weirdo called Robin Brooks, although he's not around very much. There we go. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I think we have a very the usual crew are about. If you're new or if you've just tuned in, if you're watching this later on, do give us a shout. If in doubt, give it a clout. David says, yes, that is 100% accurate. So we're just going to leave it with Robin sitting there looking at it. Oi, oi. I don't really know. Don't know what's going on. I'm going to leave that like that because that's quite funny. I enjoy that. That pleases me. And we're just going to crash on this evening. Just going to see where we get to with things. Just going to jabber. Jim Hamilton's in. Hello, Jim. Hope you're enjoying it. Not that there's not much to enjoy yet. We haven't really done anything. We're going to be talking about Godtear tonight. Rob and I played our first game of it, and we've got some pluses and minuses. And oh god, things have all gone horribly wrong. Hold on 1 second, and let me just change this around. Chatting solo. I'm still talking. Still talking. Hopefully everyone can see me and hear me. And yeah, hopefully I'm just gonna switch view in a moment. This has just all gone horribly wrong. All gone horribly, horribly wrong. Horribly, horribly, horribly wrong. Hasn't it this evening? Hasn't it, eh? Eh? There we go. So I'm just gonna. This is literally the. Oh, it's just terrible. It's just there we go. There's me. Hello. Hello. It wouldn't be an Agents of Sigmar evening without all this technical kerfuffle, would it? Oh, there we go. Right. So I was going to try and change the view to something else, but for some reason the other view won't show my webcam for whatever reason is best known to it. So I just had to stick with this rather half-assed setup for now. So there we are. Hello. I'm back again. Hopefully you can all still hear me. And I'm trying to quickly update the video capture at the same time whilst I do this. Yeah, it's an absolute faff. Absolute faff. Let's see, does that give me anything? Does that give me anything? Does it ask? No, it doesn't. Ugh. Right, fine. I'm just going to stay in this view for now. Just going to stay in this view and see how I get on. Can anything go right today? No, I don't think anything can go right today. It's being one of those days. It is being one of those days. So talk amongst yourselves. I'm just going to try and sort this shit out. And so yeah, we're going to be talking about Godtear today, or I might just be talking about Godtear solo, depending on how Robin gets on with things. And we're just going to be chatting a little bit about our likes and dislikes of it, how we found it, what we think works well or doesn't work well in the whole it versus underworld sort of world, effectively. Yeah, come for the back reps, stay for the technical shenanigans. Yes, a bit of a faff to like. I was going to swap to another view, like I say, that has more of my beautiful face in it, but I don't think anyone really cares that much about that. So I'm just going to leave it like this, because this is as good as it's going to get.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Robin. Your disembodied voice in the ether.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Okay.
What the problem was my TP link had gone down, so I was connected by the Wi-Fi. That's why there was a problem. The Wi-Fi is the opposite corner through 2 chimney breasts.
Yeah, Wi-Fi is going to be a dodgy pick. Or is it normally wired then?
It's normally wired, yeah. So it's now wired again. It had gone down. The TP link had stopped working.
I see.
But no, it says video connected, although I'm not quite. Nope.
So, well, James Mill asks a very good question straight away. Is it pronounced Godtear or Godtear? Yeah, Godtear or Godtear or Godtear.
Godtear, I see.
So I'm assuming, we're back, Ray. So I'm assuming it's Godtear as in sad, but it could be Godtear.
Yes, they are God. I think they're Godtears that you're collecting. I'm actually trying to collect things. I did read the lore, but like me and lore all the time, I just immediately then forgot what it was.
You just went, this shit isn't Lord of the Rings. Bollocks to this. I'm giving up.
I know different people have very different views to me. I just find game lore not very interesting. I don't really care. I want the game to be interesting. I don't know. The lore, the story behind it doesn't really bother me. But I know that's obviously different people have entirely different views on that. But they're wrong.
As we always say, though, chess, that hasn't got much of a backstory to it.
No, exactly, no. Yeah, exactly.
I think that kind of thing matters more when you're playing a more, I can't think of the word now, but when you're playing more
narrative.
That's the word. Exactly the right word. Even like 40k and AOS, which is almost just a sit down and play and then pack away. The narrative still helps there to sort of explain some of it, but you don't need that in things like Godtear and Underworlds and stuff.
Yeah, you can't stand. So Jay says the lore tends to be a big deal for him. He can't stand a cut and paste fantasy setting. I sort of know what you mean, but I think I think the game has. If the game is good, I don't care what the lore is, and if the game isn't any good, no amount of lore will make me want to play it. I think
true.
That's role playing games are different, but tabletop games, it's about the mechanics and the ease of the accessibility for me. And to a degree, how cool the minis are. Yeah,
mini coolness like that one you shared the other day on the Discord.
Oh,
For God's sake, that thing looked amazing. And I only hope it looks remotely like that when it's actually in real life, because I know those are all sort of renders of the 3D files. But that looked fantastic. But
so that's from the Creature Caster Judgment Kickstarter, which is probably finishing today. But it's awesome. Well, it looks awesome, and it's a very in fact it looks quite a lot like Godtear and Underworld. So you have warbands of fighters. I think you can mix and match the heroes in that one. But you have cards, but it's hex based, but you have cards like Godtear, which we'll get onto in a minute, I guess. But there's no deck building.
Yes. James Miller says he needs a hook to want to be bothered to learn the rules to the game, but he does agree the game itself also has to be good. I mean, we played Underworlds with barely any real look into the lore behind it. It was all about
except,
mechanics.
I suppose, in the case of Underworlds, we kind of had, because it is Warhammer, so we kind of had that. We knew where we were coming from.
Sort of, although it was AOS, wasn't it? Not
old
school Warhammer. So
no, true, but I feel like that was enough to get me going. What is interesting though is I don't very often play sci-fi games, and so that probably says something, but I'm not quite sure what.
But just that you have your first love, I guess, which is like Lord of the Rings, and that then bleeds through into the fantasy setting and that kind of thing, and then Bretonia and Empire and that kind of stuff. That's going to solidify that kind of thing. Yeah,
I'd be much more likely to pick up a fantasy-based fantasy set hex-based game than I would be a science fiction one, unless I already knew the rule set. Interestingly, So, for example, if they did do Wondermunder or 40k Underworlds, then I'd definitely be there
I would definitely like for them, and I know this isn't God tier at all. I would definitely like for them to do some kind of Necromunda / 40k based underworld setting. Would just be the dogs. Would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it would be cool. I can't believe they haven't done it. To be honest, maybe Underworld isn't as successful as we'd like to think, but I feel like it's such a great community. Whether the 40k equivalent will be a terrible community or not, I don't know. But I feel like it's there, and the model I feel is proven to work. People buy pretty whatever they put out for it. They get deep people who are deeply involved in the game who keep buying and stuff as fast as they can produce it, which is pretty fast at the moment. We keep buying it, so I feel like
faster than they can produce it even.
Step into 40k seems like a natural thing. Maybe we'll see that with this because they have expanded the team, I believe, as we talked about that before in their job adverts. We have expanded the team.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see that.
They were hiring for people like for Kill Team and stuff. Were they hiring someone specifically for Underworlds as well?
They were,
like
yeah.
They were.
Three roles. I think it was Underworlds and Warcry.
Yes, that's it.
So,
yeah. Still waiting for Bladeborn as well. That could be juicy.
Yeah. So how did you want to roll this tonight, Pete? Did you want to talk about the similarities between Godtear and Underworlds, or did you?
I figured we could give people a bit of a rundown of Godtear and what the game is like, how it plays and stuff. And then we can sort of explain as we go the differences or the similarities between the two and what we like or dislike between the two, or what we think works better in one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, we've only played a couple of games so far, so we're not I think not in a position to massively tell.
No, we can give our impressions of it.
Yeah, I definitely, if you enjoy Underworld, I'd start off by saying you will probably enjoy Godtear as well.
Yeah. Definitely.
Excuse me. Again, the games come from the same spiritual place.
Yeah, they're both hex based. One big difference already is that the Godtear board is about 4 times the size of the Underworlds, maybe twice the size of the Underworld sort of board area, and it's set. You don't have two boards to place, so it's just you put it down and bang, there you go, you're ready to start, which is already time saved.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit quicker to play. Certainly on basic mode. And we only played on basic mode as well.
Yeah, which is like one fighter team type thing.
Yeah, so the warbands for Godtear are similar to Underworlds. They're set. So you get, I can't remember what they're called in the starter set. I've got it up here. Hang on. I've got your pretty face up at the moment, Pete, but I'll have to switch into here. So the starter sets, there's a Borderlands starter set and Eternal Glade starter set, and they both come with a pair of warbands, very similar to Underworlds again, and you get 2 warbands in each. So each warband comes with a champion and then some followers.
Yep.
And the champions are quite big models, and the followers are much smaller. And the champions have a whole load of special skills that the followers don't have. And so for a basic game, you just play the two against each other. But actually, it says in the rules, although there's no actual example of it, I noticed, it says in the rules that for a standard game, you would play with 3 warbands on each side. So you're looking at, 3 champions and 3 sets of followers. Followers range between about 4 and 6 models, I think, depending on the warband. Which in itself I find interesting. And that's kind of where the variety comes, I think, in the game.
Yeah, and the game sort of, you already touched on the fact there aren't decks. There's no deck building element. You just have the fighter cards, and the fighters have abilities depending on which phase you're in, and there's 2 phases. And the main thing that you want to do, you get points for doing various things like killing off the opponent's champion, although they're never properly dead. They can come back the next round, or killing off the opponent's followers, or planting like a standard or a banner, I think it's called, or having that banner still around at the end of that each round. You get points for those things. And then the other thing that I found quite interesting is you have 2 phases. You have like what's called a plot phase, where you move or you do something with all of your models in your warband, then your opponent does something with all of their models in their warband, and then when you get out the plot phase, you go onto the clash phase, I think it was called, and then you had to turn the cards over, and on the other side you have different abilities in the clash phase to the plot phase. You have to be careful what you do and how you set yourself up. And then
so you only have, sorry,
that's right.
You basically only have your champion has a card. Well, your champion actually has 2 cards, and your followers have a card, and they have 2 sides, and they have different things on each side. But you, as the game progresses, like Pete says, you go through the plot and the clash phase, and then you flip the card. So what some things you can do in the plot phase you can't do in the clash phase. So it's quite interesting. So you do have to think ahead about what you want to do, but there are a few things you can do in either phase, and one of the most important things is placing the banner. You can place a banner anywhere. There's objective hexes, which are depends on what scenario you're playing. Different scenarios, different setups for objective hexes. But if you can place a banner in an objective hex, then potentially you can score big at the end of the turn.
Yeah, and you can only place the banners in objective hexes. And then you want to stop the opponent's champion from destroying that banner, because that's basically, as soon as the banner goes down, that's what you want to take out with the other champion. The thing that really threw me is that you'll have your champion fighter, and then you'll have your followers. Your champion is one model, and they do their activations, and then your followers also count as sort of one model. So you can have 1, 2, or 3 in a hex, and depending on how many you have in that hex depends on how good their ability is. But like, if you then do a move action with your followers, they all have to do that move action. They don't have to move in the same direction, and they can all move into different hexes, but they all have to do a move. And then if you do their attack action, you only pick one of your followers. So you might have 5 of them, but only one of those followers makes that attack action, and then it might get bolstered by other people in the same hex or other fighters in hexes next to the target, but only one of them does that. And that was a bit of a brain freeze for me to get my head around. But once you get your head around it, it's quite plays quite easily. But you can take out individual follower models, so it's a bit like a multi-wound, multi-model, single model in some ways. Yeah,
I find that's really quite interesting mechanic, because you can actually use the as the game ebbs and flows, you can use your forces to block your opponent's lines of entry into the objective hexes and things, so you can't move through fighters. So there's quite a lot of interesting. I feel like, now I'm not the best Underworlds player, but I feel like it's more positional Godtear than Underworlds, and a bit less dice based. There are dice in the game. We haven't played a lot yet, but I feel like, because the other thing with Godtear is the objective hexes can only be entered by the champion, so the minions can't enter the objective hexes. So you start off with 2. You start off with 4, I think. Was it 4 or 6?
Yeah, you started off, hexes, depending on which mission it is. The first basic mission starts with 4 right in the middle of the board. 4.
And so if you can kind of block your opponent's entry into the objective hexes if by positioning your fighters, and your fighter, or similarly, you can position your champion out of the way, and so because they don't move that far, so they only move a couple of hexes a turn. So if depending on clever positioning of your fighters, you can protect your champion or protect the banner, because the banner can only go in an objective hex. And then if you ring fence that with followers, you can't get to the banner, and the banner scores you 4 points at the end of the turn, which is huge. And you can protect it and stop your opponent from running it, because if your champion runs over your opponent's banner, if your champion steps on the hex with your opponent's banner and it disappears. And the idea is basically to have your banner left at the end of each phase. So
interestingly, your champion can't move into a hex with your own banner in, and your minions can't move into a hex with your banner in. You can't basically move into any other hex that has a model in it. The only time you can do it is when your champion moves into an opposing fighter's hex with a banner in, and then it gets removed straight away. So that's the only situation where that happens.
So as an arbitrary, trying arbitrarily, I put my banner down without really thinking about it when we started playing, and then I actually blocked myself from doing what I wanted to do, because my banner was in the way. If I put it in the other hex, I could have carried on doing what I wanted to do. So it's I find it positioning is more important, and there's an interesting mechanic. So it's quite hard to talk about the game in the abstract, I think. But there's 5 turns in the game, and the victory points for the game. If you win turn 1, then you get 1 victory point. If you win turn 2, you get 2 victory points. If you win turn 3, you get 3 victory points. If you win turn 4, you only get 2. And if you win turn 5, you only get 1. Quite important to win that middle turn. It's probably an advantage to go second because you get the last turn, which means you can either place your banner or stand on your opponent's banner. Obviously, do both for a big swing because you then have there's also a track for each. So each turn is basically just one go of the plot phase and one go of the clash phase. So it's basically just each set of models will activate twice. And you get various points for like knocking out followers, knocking out champions, getting the banner in position. There's a ladder on the side of the board, and basically whichever if the coin on the ladder ends up on your side, then you win the turn, and if it goes on the other side, your opponent wins the turn. James says, does that scoring system mean that some games become foregone conclusions? Basically, yes. If you win the first 3 turns, then you win.
That was possible. Or if you win the third turn and either the second or the fourth, then you've won.
Then you've won. Yeah.
That was possibly the only thing I didn't really like in the game, was the fact that you can probably tell. I don't know quite often because we've only played one game, so it's hard to tell how close the games get. But you can probably tell within 3 or at most, I would have thought 4 rounds, who's won. I mean, you probably have scenarios where it comes down to that 5th round because it's effectively a best of 5 rounds, sort of, depending on how close it is. But yeah, I can definitely see it coming down to, by the time the 3rd round's done, that possibly decides who's won it.
Yeah, we did do something slightly wrong, didn't we? Because it is an advantage to go second. And I think we played the person who won the round got to choose who went first or second the next round. I think it was the other way around.
I think it's the loser chooses. And also, at the end of each round, and you might be just about to say it's at the end of each round, you create more, or depending on the scenario, you either create more objective hexes, or you can move objective hexes, or you can add more objective hexes, and it's the loser that places those. So if you're losing, you can suddenly put more objective hexes down to block your opponent off, or make it more advantageous for you to be able to place an objective that your opposing champion's not going to be able to get to. So that then does make it much easier, and I can see there being a swing there where you start to think, do I throw round 2 so that I know I can get round 3 for the big score, and then you get a bit more of a head game going on there, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we haven't quite explored that yet, and I think also I don't know when we throw in more warbands. We're going to play again this week, and we're going to throw in try and play with 2 warbands each. And then see how that goes. I think you've then suddenly have more variation in what goes on, and bigger scoring as well. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes, because there are each unit or each warband has a different kind of skill, or skill is probably the wrong word, but almost a bit like the
tactic.
Tactic. So you've got Slayers, Maelstroms, Guardians, and Shapers. And they do certain things. They get extra bonus points for doing certain things on the board. And so I think we played a Slayer versus... Were you a Slayer versus a Maelstrom, weren't you?
Yeah.
I think I was a Maelstrom. And I think just a one-on-one, the Maelstrom's probably slightly easier to win, because they score extra points for killing followers, which is much easier than killing champions, which is the Slayers have to kill champions.
Yeah, my guy got like +1 for killing a champion, which gives you 4 points anyway, so I would get 5 instead of 4. Whereas your champion got +1 glory for killing a follower, which gives you 1 anyway. So that was doubling your potential glory. And now it's not necessarily easy, because normally a champion can only target 1 follower, so you can only kill 1. So normally that wouldn't be a big thing. But your character had a specific ability which enabled him to hit 2 people, so you could effectively score the. So
I got a 4-point swing, didn't I? I think.
Yeah. I do think it's worth pointing out, though, here that, because James said, does that mean the scoring system means some games are a foregone conclusion? That is true, and whilst I said I didn't like that, I think it's important to point out that that's just as possible to be the case in Underworlds as well, especially in a best of 3 scenario. You could get to the end of round 2 or the second game, and somebody's already won 2 games, so that's it. Or you could be playing, 3 glory versus someone who's got
Really?
18 or whatever, and you know that you've lost. So I guess that's always going to be the case in these kind of games.
Yes, I think so. I think it means that you really have to concentrate on those two middle rounds 2 and 3. Make sure you take at least one of them. Especially if it depends who wins the first round, I suppose. But I found that quite interesting, and it adds an extra dynamic to the game. But I'd say I do feel like because you also have a special ability, which each champion has their special ability. You can only do once in a game. I kind of feel like both sides hold on to game 3 to try and use that. But you're looking, I think, in game 1 and 2 to try and set up a tactical advantage for you to win turn 3, which I think is interesting. And that's part of the game. So although the whole set might become foregone conclusion, part of the game is building up to taking it and making it a foregone conclusion. That's what the game is.
Yeah, and if you win round 1 and 2 and then your opponent wins round 3, it's still game on. It's still 3 apiece at that point. So I guess the only problem there is it almost needs to go back to 1 point again for round 4, because if you win 2 and your opponent wins the third one, then it's 3 apiece. Whoever wins the next one, which is 2 points again, they've won the game. There's no point in that. There's no point in that last round. There's very few scenarios where the 5th round really decides it.
No. There must be some, but I'm struggling to think what they are. I guess if you win alternately, so you go 1, 2, 3, 2, so it's 4 all going into the 5th.
That's the only scenario. Otherwise, by the 4th round, you're pretty much guaranteed to know.
Well, that's quite exciting, I think, in some ways. You're going into that final round. Going into that 4th round, knowing that whoever wins takes the game, adds a definite frisson to the scenarios.
Certainly does.
I think.
And also, like we said, in Underworlds, games can become foregone conclusions. But also, if you get to the 3rd round in this, and your opponent wins 2, and you've only won one of them, or the 1st or the 2nd round, or whichever way it is that right, you've lost. There's no way your opponent you can beat your opponent now. You can just start a new game straight away. It doesn't take 5 minutes to then sweep everything off the board and get cracking again.
It is much quicker, and there is less. I think there's less room for error, because I wouldn't like to say that games were settled by error, but we've all known in our own championships and other championships that mistakes can cost people games, both positive and negative ones.
I've never won a game based on a cock-up, ever. There's nothing to prove that.
But because there's far fewer card interactions in Godtear, which is something I quite like about it, and it makes it easier for beginners, I think. You haven't got the whole deck building thing, which obviously some people love deck building games. I quite enjoy the deck building aspect of it, but as I've recently said, I think there are too many cards in Underworlds to make it as much fun as it could be for me. Again, everybody's different. But Godtear, you don't have that, so you very quickly learn. Okay, we haven't played with multiple warbands yet, but you very quickly learn in the game, even when you're a beginner game, what your set of skills are, and that's what they'll always be. And also, you learn what your opponents are, and that's what they'll always be. So you can make more informed decisions about what's going to happen, which I liked. And there's less variation, which I suppose arguably is a bad thing. And I've completely forgotten where I was actually going with that.
I mean, you say though that there's less variation. I'm not sure that less variation's true, because you just don't become. You can start to just create different You can just take different warband combinations.
Oh yeah. I meant within the game.
I see.
And not outside of the game. Yeah, because there are 17 warbands, I think, and you can pair them or trio them in any way you like.
Yeah.
Which will be quite interesting to get a clump of them and see how they work together. And I guess that's part of, if there are tournament games of this, I guess part of that is working out which warbands synergize well with one another to help you score glory. Because it doesn't it's not called glory, but any number of banners put down in the objectives will score you the points for putting manners down, for example. So you could all champions could put their manners down. So in theory, you could score 12, I think, or even more from putting 3 banners down. Tough to do.
Yes.
But yes, there is variation in that respect. But once you're in the game, you're not suddenly going to find yourself, apart from they might have a skill, you're not suddenly going to find, like today I was playing a game in one of my league games and suddenly I could move 8 hexes across the board. That doesn't happen. So you can kind of predict more what's going to happen. I suppose it makes it more like chess in the sense that nobody suddenly buffs the queen and charges her across the board. Well, she can charge across the board, but you know what I mean. She can't suddenly leap over. She doesn't get spectral wings or something.
Yeah. It's a bit more predictable, and it's a bit more. Predictable is maybe not the right word, but it's a bit more steady, and you have abilities like the player I was playing with had an ability which gave me a +2 move effectively on a 2-move fighter, because both of our champions I think were 2 move. That was quite a big boost, but it was like I had that almost every round because of the way their abilities worked. I could give that to my fighter every round and get that boost off of it. So it's just a bit more steady, I think, and maybe Underworld is the same, but I do feel like because of the cards, because of the decks, you can very easily make one fighter very different to how they started, whereas I don't think that's quite the same in this.
No, and I'm also guessing that the meta, as it were, stays more steady, which again may not be a good thing. People like the fact that the meta changes in Underworld, but a new warband when it arrives, basically it will give you different combinations you can use, but it isn't gonna shake up the entire game. So again, it's more solid in that respect, which I don't know whether that's good or bad.
Depending on who you're playing against as well, you can play it such that you could take alternate choices of warbands or something. I could see us doing that for games,
almost like a draft.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can then go, okay, we've got however many warbands, so we'll roll off to see, or we'll do a bit like they did on the Sydney group one, where they said, okay, the first person to pick picks 1 warband, the second person to pick picks 2, then the first person then picks 2, and then the second person picks 1 again. Which to start with I was like, what? But then I realised, well, that actually makes sense, because you either forego the choice to pick first and then possibly have 2 choices, or it makes sense. And then you can do that with your opponent as well. You can sit there and go, okay, we've got however many warbands between us, so you can just randomly pick, which I quite liked. It takes away some of the it takes away a lot of the pre-game prep, because you only need 1 box. Once you've got a box, you'll have the board, you'll have 2 warbands in it, and you'll have the warbands card, and you'll have 10 dice. Believe it or not, sometimes you can roll about 10 dice in one attack, which I do quite like.
Yeah, it's quite nice. I'm just going to quickly answer Dropbear's question and then come back to dice.
Yeah.
He says, what's the miniatures quality like? The pictures have been less than inspiring, the pictures you've seen of them. They aren't games where we've got miniatures. That is definitely true. And that is, if you're comparing it to Underworlds, that is a negative for the game. And the warbands aren't much cheaper. So they're 25 at retail.
Depends what you're getting, because I'm just looking on here and I found there's Blackjaw warband, which is £19. So. Oh,
okay, I'm actually looking directly on the website. Directly on the.
Okay, so you can get them through other people website. And stuff.
Okay. But I mean that's a comparable price with Underworld, isn't it? I know Underworld's gone up a little bit this year.
Yeah.
But they aren't as good. But it doesn't matter to a degree. Actually, I don't think you won't be necessarily making these pride of place when you're on your table, or on your cabinets. But they aren't so good. They're softer plastic, and the detail is good.
The plastic will actually, it does bend. It's very soft and malleable.
Yeah.
Which in some ways I've found it's quite handy, because I've been trying to get behind some pieces, and like I can actually just sort of bend it out of the way a little bit whilst I put paint behind it, and then it'll just ping back again.
And they come solid, and then they come as one piece, which, depending on most of us here are all modelers, not models, but modelers, and
Speak for yourself.
gamers. So we don't mind clipping the stuff out of the sprues, and we see that as part of the hobby. But this has the advantage that you can just literally open the box and play. The different strategies come in different colours. So all the Maelstroms are yellow, and all the Guardians are colour. Guardians are all blue. So you can just literally open the box and play.
Yeah. And there are loads of different warbands out already for it. There's about 17 or so, something like that. And there's all various kinds of styles. There's a few warbands where you just get like 2 big guys, and that's it. And there are other ones where you get one sort of medium-sized guy and about 5 or 6 sort of followers, which also is pretty cool. I quite like the differences there. There's one which is like a mage standing on a rock, and then he's got like this big stone golem thing, which is his second, and it's it just I some of the models, whilst they aren't as sharp as GW models, I mean, they're still pretty cool. They still look pretty cool.
But they look pretty great with a very simple paint job. I mean, you did that. I know you will come to what your expansion was with the little golem things, but they look really great with just a dry brush. And I just did a few coats of dry brush on the other models from the starter set, and they looked. I mean, they don't look brilliant, but they look good enough to play an enjoyable game with and enjoy the fact that they're painted.
Yeah.
VJ says it's a bit rubbish that they're the different scale of the models, unlike double duty Underworld minis in AOS. Well, maybe, but that feels like it's reaching a little bit.
What was that about the double scale? I haven't got that comment showing for some reason.
Okay, just Google images. Having the champion in a different scale makes them a bit shit to use in anything else, unlike the double duty of Underworld minis in AOS.
Possibly, but then Godtear isn't designed to be cross-compatible with any other sort of Steamforged.
Oh no, I don't know whether you can use it in any other Steamforged games. I don't know if there are any, but I mean, but having said that, on the flip side of that, I now would have a model to play the Gargant variant of Underworld, which I wouldn't have had if I didn't have any other models.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So there are. You never know whether you might find a use for it.
And I do like the fact that they are a different scale. It makes them stand out a bit more.
It does.
The champion model, your big boss guy, does feel a bit more epic because he is bigger.
Yeah.
And you get all the minions are sort of crowding around your champion, and they're just sort of wading through, and the two champions are whapping each other in the face and stuff. It's quite thematic in that respect, and I like that.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to get a couple more expansions. I think we've got 6 warbands, so we will move up to playing 3-on-3. But I'd definitely like to get a couple more and of the interesting ones and see how they play, see how they work together in different ways.
I could definitely see because whilst the champions and the little guys are different scales, I could definitely see, especially in like role playing games and stuff, the different scale would work quite nicely to your advantage. You could very easily with one of the warband sets they've got a cave troll scenario come up, and stuff like that. And there's lots of different types of the fighters. Like there's a dwarf warband in there, but there's also like the orcs that we've got. There's a dwarf that's got a load of mechanical birds and stuff like that. It's just there are loads, and there are some very nice looking models in there. So there's one with dragons as well. I've just noticed.
Yeah, there is one with dragons. Pretty cool.
So.
I like the aesthetic of the different warbands. I like the themes of them. Some of them I like more than others, but they are a little bit down on the detailing. I guess if you're comparing against GW models, but I enjoy. We haven't played that much, but I enjoyed the games that we have played, and I enjoyed. It feels a bit less because there's less upfront kind of preparation. It feels a little bit more light than Underworld to me. Maybe it's because we haven't played it very much, but I just felt I didn't mind playing around, experimenting, seeing what you could do, trying different things, because actually the games don't last very long.
You feel less invested.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Underworld sometimes I feel like the game was a foregone conclusion before you even sat down if you screwed up your deck. Now we don't play that often. And so our deck, we're building new decks all the time. They don't get much testing. And so if we find that the deck breaks in the middle of the game, then that's it. you've probably lost. Or if your cards go out of the wrong order, you've probably lost. You've got none of that here. Your cards are always the same, and if you lose, it's basically down to not understanding how they worked, or
or just
misplay.
Dice doing things.
Misplay. Well, there are dice, but I don't feel that the dice are that significant. But perhaps we haven't played enough yet to know. I mean, we had middling luck in the games we played, so that may have had something to do with it. But I kind of feel like, apart from my attack where I did kill those two guys, I kind of feel like because you've always got that mechanic whereby if you can keep your flag protected, you could score quite heavily, and that doesn't rely on dice at all, pretty much. You've always got a shout for the dice.
There is that, although without the dice, I mean, like the fighter I had the ability Snowball's Chance, which relied on you rolling, only getting maybe 3 dice to roll, and then you did have to get slightly above average for it to succeed. But if you did manage to get it to succeed, you pretty much took the enemy's champion out straight away. Bang! It wasn't a case of, because champions have about 6 wounds, and you only generally do like 2 or 3 damage per an attack, so it can take a few. And champions are a bit tougher as well, so it's not necessarily very easy to take a champion down. But this one was like, if you rolled a little bit above average, the champion was out in one go from 6 wounds to nothing, and they were taken out. Now they do come back the next round, but they do have to use an ability to resurrect themselves, so they become less effective in the following round. So that could be
losing a champion could be painful, because it's basically a bit like in Blood Bowl, where you have to sub somebody in, and it's you're losing one of your possible interactions. But similarly though, if you miss with that attack, or playing the odds to miss with that attack, that's equivalent to the same thing, really, isn't it? Because if you miss, you've basically done nothing. But it felt to me like there were things you could do. There's quite a few kind of they're sort of attacks. They have range, but they kind of they work. I can't remember exactly what they did now, but you haven't got that dice roll, so you can do things. Most of mine were to buff my own men, so it was a bit different. But you can use your ability to make yourself a little bit better, and then you go forward to attack, because you get little tokens, so you can buff certain things. So you can have a extra movement or less. So they have the positive and negatives of both. But you have extra movement, extra dice for attacking, I think, extra dice for 1 less dodge or 1 more dodge ability, and that's quite nice. And they just work once, which I also quite like. Whereas when you have Underworlds, where you put great strength on somebody, they've always got that till they're dead. If you buff somebody in this, it literally is a buff for 1 go, so nobody gets too outrageously good. And so once you've made that attack with the bonus, or you've defended with the negative, it goes. So it's not like somebody puts a negative defense on your champion. It's not like, oh shit, they're basically screwed now for the rest of the game. Next attack they might be, but then you take it off, and you're back. You're back as you were.
I can't remember if you just mentioned this or not. And you can only get 1 of each type of buff. So you can only get 1 extra attack dice, 1 extra move, 1 extra defense, or -1 defense, or -1 dodge, or whatever. It's just 1 is the maximum, and it's only there for the next thing that they use it for, and then it's gone. So it's a lot more temporary. It's a lot less. It's one of the situations where tokens actually are useful, because they get put on and then removed quickly, and it's a lot less sort of just paperwork, accountancy, I think. And Underworlds doesn't have a massive amount of accountancy, but you can quickly, with hunger tokens and guard tokens and charge tokens and all that, you can start to get quite token heavy. So I like the fact that Godtear, I wouldn't say it's a simpler game than Underworlds, it's just a lighter weight version of it.
More streamlined.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even necessarily say it was lighter weight, in the sense that I think.
I mean, lighter weight is a lot less prep.
Yeah, definitely. That I would agree with. Yeah. But I think in some ways it's not a heavier game, but you have to think more about. I feel like, and again, I know I'm not the best Underworlds player. I know I probably should think about my positional play more. Sometimes I feel like Underworlds is just a race to get your passive glory, to pile on the upgrades onto your key fighter or fighters, and then basically minimise the risks of your dice in the latter stages of the game, so you can destroy your opponent. I feel it's a bit like that.
But I do like the
This
fact that if you have a crap game in Godtear, you can just rekey, set it all up again in 5 minutes flat, swap the warbands around, and you can play another game. There's no, oh, now I've got to go make another deck because this deck's rubbish or whatever.
Yeah. Whereas this game actually, it got quite cerebral at times when you're trying to work out how best to, because you've got quite limited options because you're basically only going to use each fighter twice in each turn, or each group, following champion twice in each turn. So you've got to think quite carefully about what you can. You can only do 2 things with them each time you do something. So you've basically got four options, and you can't repeat options. You can repeat options across. So you can move twice, once in the plot phase and once in the clash phase, but you can't move twice in the plot phase, and you can't attack twice in the clash phase. So you've got to think about what you're doing. You've got to think ahead because you've got to think about what might happen in the next turn, and then you've got to think about board position. Like you say, you can position your men to block what your opponent's trying to do. You can think, well, I want to put my banner down, but if I put my banner down now, it's utterly pointless because he's just going to move on to the banner and take it away again. So you're always thinking about what your opponent might do and what you want to do. I quite like that. There was. And this happens in Underworld. I think the best games of Underworld are when you're kind of vying for each other's plan and trying to stop what the other person's doing at the same time. So you're trying to further your own plan, but also thinking about what your opponent's doing. Sometimes in Underworld you get games, and this may be true in Godtear too. We haven't played enough yet. Sometimes in Underworld you get games where you're basically both just doing your plan, and whoever does it best at the end is the winner.
Yeah. But I like, despite the fact that I think despite the fact that the game by Steamforged does appear to be quite lightweight, it is, like you say, it can be very cerebral. Very quickly you can realise, oh, okay, I need to make sure I plot these things in an order to make sure that happens. And I think that the element we missed to the game when we were playing it, in that the loser's the one who picks who goes first the next round, is a very big factor, because it kind of seemed when we played it that the winner just rolls on with it and can just keep going. I'm going to go second again. I'm going to go second again. I'm going to go second again.
Yeah.
And I can definitely see that being a big factor. We also forgot, a bit spoiler for the battle report, but we also forgot to add more objective tokens down, I think. No, we didn't in our game we recorded. The game we played, we forgot about, but we did in the second one. But yeah, we forgot about the fact that the loser picks who goes first the next time round, and that could be a big factor on it. But I just like overall the fact that it's just a much quicker game with much less investment. I also like the fact that when you buy the warbands, they can fit back in the boxes. So you can just put them.
They do look great. Once you've painted them and you put them black in the plastic bits of the box, they look really nice.
Yeah. And then you can just put those on the shelf, and that's it. They're stored in there. You can put the cards back in there. There's no having to find boxes for all your cards and how you're going to store them. There's none of that faff around. You can literally just stick the board down and you can just start playing.
Somewhat disappointingly, though. Sorry, go on, Pete.
Go on.
No. I was going to change the subject slightly. So you finish what you were going to say.
Okay, I had one downside to Godtear that I was going to mention, and it's not really about the game so much as just the fact that GW are very good at putting style over substance in some of their games. I mean, you can't deny that their rule books. Yeah, well, yeah, I'll leave it up to the watchers to decide. You can't deny that the quality of the material they produce is fantastic. Not just the card stock, the models are obviously out of this world, and the rule books, the artwork, and all that kind of stuff. They just know how to ooze quality in style. Yeah. And the Godtear stuff, the rule book felt a little bit, my mate's done a rule book kind of thing. It wasn't terrible. The artwork in it is very nice, but I don't know. There was it wasn't quite as glossy. When we were looking through it, we were trying to find some bits on how do you do this thing, how does this thing work, and we couldn't. It took us ages to find some of the answers to that because it wasn't necessarily very obviously laid out. I suspect that's just because they haven't got an army of people going over these things again and again and again and again to polish it to the to be the glossiest thing that it could be. But it was still very good.
Yeah, I disagree slightly there with you in that I don't think GW, although they look amazing, I don't think they particularly great at sequencing books in the right order. You look at how
Yeah,
Blackstone
that's
Fortress. Blackstone Fortress was awful to try and find anything in. Underworlds, I completely missed a couple of rules. We played it wrong the first time we ever played it. So I'm not
yes,
sure. I think
that
there are less
aspect's the
rules.
same for both. That is the same for
Yeah,
both. That
yeah,
bit, yeah.
yeah. But I
But
think, but yeah, the product doesn't look as high end as
mm,
as as, as Underworld. But
no,
what I was going to say is we've actually gone up now. We actually dipped down below 10 watchers. Tim's here now, which is
hello
great.
Tim.
But I was going to say, clearly people don't want to hear about Godtear as much as they do about Underworld.
Well, that's the other thing I'm
Um,
wondering is obviously GW do have a much bigger fan base than
yeah, yeah.
than Steamforge games. They're a much smaller fish in the pool. GW are the shark or the whale or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I mean it's something we're going to play still because it's fun.
Yeah.
Whether people end up watching it as much as our Underworld stuff or Necromunda stuff, I don't know.
No, I would definitely like to see how God Tier goes with a few more games. And I say we enjoy playing it, and sometimes, especially when the dice desert us, we don't enjoy playing Underworlds as much.
God no.
But we also like new stuff, so it may be that we just we're just excited by it because it's all new. So I'd definitely like to play a few more games with 2 or 3 warbands and see whether we still enjoy it as much as Underworlds.
Yeah, and how long it takes to play with 2 or 3 war bands, because it might be that once you've got 3 war bands aside, it's like a 2 hour ordeal for us, and we just don't want to spend that long
Yeah,
on it.
I
But
mean, it says it should take you an hour, but I mean, we do know how slow we are. Um,
yeah, Underworlds is supposedly half an hour, and
yeah, but when you know what you're doing, this game is again because you've got less interactions.
yeah,
So
that is true.
if you play with the same, certainly if you play with the same war bands for a few games, you would certainly know what you were doing. I think a bit more.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, we were talking about after our game that we recorded the other day. It became very obvious at that point when I was looking back through the cards and some other obvious things that you'd want to do with Morrigan. You're like, oh, okay, you definitely want to do this with your followers first, to do that for your fighter, and then do this with your fighter in the plot phase, so that in your clash phase you can then use their uber ability much more reliably to then hopefully take out the opposing champion. So it
yeah,
started to make a bit more sense then.
definitely. I think as an out of the box experience, it's more accessible than Underworld. But whether it uh, is a long term game, whether it stands up for that, we don't know yet. But we will hopefully find out.
Mm. If I could change one aspect of the God tier game, I would, and you can give me what yours would be in a moment, Robin. If I could change one aspect of the gold tier game, it would just be the level of quality on the models.
Ah, I was going to say, whatever he says, I'm going to say it's the level of quality of the model. So yeah, I agree. I agree. I think I've found Godtear at a good time of an Underworld season. I think if I had found it as Chasm had come out, I may not have thought it was quite so good. But because I'm just saturated in cards from
Yeah,
Underworlds, I just really thought, God, this is just breath of fresh air. You get your models, you plonk them down. You've got we only played one warband, but you've got 3 cards. It says what they do on them. That's what they always do. It's really simple. I really like it. So
yeah,
I think but whereas I actually just feel sort of like I've been crushed by the sheer volume of releases from GW. But those releases are just so beautiful. Yeah, if you could play God Tier with GW Minis, I think that would be nigh on the perfect game. And maybe the Creature Caster Labyrinth Kickstarter will be that game because it looks quite similar in many ways to God Tier, but the models look um, amazing.
the models on that one do look absolutely another level, and I do worry that that's because we've only seen the 3D renders of
Yeah,
those
but I mean they've
models.
got a
But
good rep. They've got a good rep of Creature Caster, I believe.
that's
I think
true.
they're the painters miniatures from, as I was told
Yeah,
on one of our Discord chats.
they do look
Please,
fantastic. And I think that I mean that's a similar thing. It's hex based. It's small warband size where you pick your warband. So it's a bit like I think Morph mentioned this a little earlier about Super Fancy Brawl. It's a bit like that in that you pick your fighters it's not deck-based building. You pick your warriors, they have some abilities, and then you go at it, and you've got to do certain things, like you've got to take out the other person's altar or whatever it is, something like that. I haven't actually seen much in the way of the gameplay, but the setup looks like it should be quite easy.
I've only played one game of Super Fantasy Brawl, but I did enjoy this game more.
Yeah.
Super Fantasy Brawl seemed far more arbitrary to me than Godtear. But it was only one game, so it's not really a fair comparison. Although I've only played 2 of Godtear, but Godtear to me seemed more appealing.
Well, there's no cards, was there, in Godtear? So there's no random element of you're just drawing cards and that helps you decide.
No.
So
no.
Yeah, I could see that being quite frustrating in Super Fantasy Brawl, in that you've got your 3 fighters and you've got your packed deck of cards. But if all the cards come out for the fight that you don't want to be doing anything with at that time, I guess that's the challenge of the game, in that you have to then change your plans, but you don't have.
It's not too bad because there aren't very many cards. That doesn't happen too often. But I've just found it a bit. I just found the whole, maybe fun enough, tying back into what James was saying at the beginning. Perhaps the lore didn't really interest me, in the sense that it didn't seem consistent to me. I didn't really understand why I was there doing what I was meant to be doing, which kind of goes completely against what I was saying at the beginning. But I couldn't.
That was another aspect for me that didn't make a lot of sense, because they're meant to be fighters throughout history that are just brought back to fight. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing GW do better as well, is they do seem to dress things up a little better. And whilst I don't care too much about the lore, I feel like their fighters are a bit more invested. Maybe that's just the quality of the models makes me feel
I think
more
so. I mean, VJ makes the point that PVC cards are always soft. So if you're going to have against GW, you're going to come off like a mess. That is true. That's definitely true. The first Star Wars. I didn't actually mind the first Star Wars Legion minis. I mean, the later ones are better and certainly easier to assemble. But I didn't mind them.
Of course, these ones all come pre-assembled. So in Godtear, so there is no assembly required.
And I guess you tend to pay for a little bit of quality in that. Single piece models tend to be a bit less good than the multi-part kits. But I mean, I think obviously we all know that GW are the best, pretty much the best miniature makers.
I mean, I don't know if you were saying about Creature Caster that they're the miniature painters miniatures. I don't.
Yeah, but they do resin and PVC, and we've only ordered the PVC ones.
Yeah,
I didn't want to work with resin.
No, I never want to work with resin again after I had to stick a few resin models together. I've still got all those, the Necromunda stuff that we bought ages ago. I've still got all those resin weapons that I haven't put on anything yet, and I'm dreading doing that.
Well, we're going to play Necromunda soon.
Oh yeah, we need to organise that.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we must. This week we're going to play another game of Godtear with 2 warbands, and then we're also going to play another game with the starter set to see whether our first game was
a
fluke or whether there's some stuff in there that we missed.
No spoilers, but one person in the 2 of us severely misread several of their cards at various points and realised later on that they'd fucked stuff up.
Most cards, I think. But I still think the game would have been much the same result. But
I do feel that there's a warband imbalance there, and it'll be interesting to see how much that imbalance is there next time round as well.
James says he just quite likes putting minis together. I know, a lot of us do. I actually don't. Unless they go together well, I actually hate putting minis together. I'd much rather. I mean, I'd like my cake and eat it. I'd like GW quality without having to put them together. But I find the whole thing very stressful.
I don't mind putting models together until I don't. So all the time they're nice and easy. Yeah, it's great and it's a beautiful thing. And a lot of the Underworld stuff, they go together really nicely. There's a few dodgy characters in there, but for the most part, a lot of the Underworld stuff is really easy to put together. But then some of the vampires were absolute shits to assemble, and there was something else I was sticking together once. It was the Cawdor gang. They were absolute bastards as well. Because they have like teeny tiny wrists. Because obviously wrists are quite thin anyway, even on the heroic scale that GW have. And they have like teeny tiny wrists where you have to attach the hand to the arms. And yeah, they were horrific. But at least they're plastic, right? They're not resin. So with plastic you can you can stick a bit of glue on there, give it a moment to soften up, and then you can
melt them back together.
exactly. So, although I did with one of the lizard men I put together, I put some glue on it and I stuck it's Wretched, I think, who's holding up the spear. I stuck his front onto him, put it together, that's fine, put it down. Didn't notice that whilst I'd assembled everything else and then left it on the side to dry overnight, the front had sort of slid off the back and then it had set with this gap of the front half slid off, and like came to the next day, it's like, well, that's fucked. There's no doing anything about that.
Yeah. Oh dear. What cheeky. I did say it's similar with one of my son's models the other day, but it was super glue, so it was all right. I could snap it off. But basically, I just tried to stick it back on the base and I stuck it down, and then it obviously, and then I left it, and then it would obviously just rock forward and stood on his tiptoes.
Just enough.
Okay. He said, "Dad, why are you standing like that?" It's like, oh, he must have moved.
Don't worry, I can sort that out.
Yeah.
My guy says he's got a similar gap on his. Yeah, I don't know if there was just a bit of it was just because of the moulding and it left a bit of a gap, but the front had definitely sort of slid off a bit. I
hate gaps in models because I'm shit at filling holes. Just awful at it, and and then when you're painting it, you just even though I'm like the least fussy model painter in the history of model painting, you're painting it, you just think, well, he's got a massive gap where he's not meant to have one, but I try and fill the gap, it just makes it worse. So I definitely, I have to say I do love the quick fit, whatever they're called, models.
Push fits.
The push fit models. I think they're brilliant.
They are a lot better than, I say better, I don't mean better, but they're a lot easier to assemble than, say, Blood Bowl models or Necromunda models.
I think you do perhaps tend to get more gaps with them, because I don't think they always fit as well. You also, James, just sod off. You like the lore, you like putting models together, and you like gap filling. We're just not destined to be on the same plane on this.
You know what they say, Robin? Opposites attract.
Yeah. That's true, James. Put your denim waistcoat on. Meet me in the bar.
I don't know what I was going to say.
It's the painting James falls down, and he says, I actually, that's the bit I enjoy most. And I used to hate it, but I mean, this is probably going back, how old am I now? 48. So we're going back more than 30 years. I used to hate painting.
Same.
So much.
I think a lot of it, the paint, the quality of the paint, the quality of the models, the quality of the brushes are all so much better now.
The gap filling tribondic, BJ says. I don't even know what that is.
I don't think I've ever heard of it. Dave Doe says geezers, right, geezer. Geezer.
You may have wandered into the one chat, Dave.
What geese?
You may not. In which case, welcome. But you may. I don't know what bondic is, because I occasionally use, if it's not, the gap's not too big, I use a bit of varnish, matte varnish. That works quite well. I'm terrible at gap filling. Very different techniques using putty, which might work better for you. I might have to look into what. But which bondic? Oh, Dave clearly knows what he's talking about. Maybe. Which bondic product is best for filling gaps? It's a resin pen. It's a resin pen that cures with UV light. Like a dentist uses.
Cool.
Wow, interesting. Vallejo liquid putty is good, but it shrinks. I heard that bondic doesn't. Okay.
That'd be a real pain in the ass if you fill a gap what you think is perfect with all the right
details. I feel like I owe Dave Dogger an apology now. Occasionally, Dave, we get people wander into the chat and just say random things like geezers, and then we never see them again. But you clearly either that or you've just happened to stumble in on something that you are an authority on. So hello and welcome. I've not tried Vallejo liquid putty either. I've tried liquid green stuff.
That stuff was shite.
Yeah, that stuff wasn't good. And then about 3 weeks after I went back to it, it wasn't liquid green stuff anymore. It was
just very
solid
hard.
green stuff.
Yeah.
Solid green stuff.
So we are looking forward to getting some more Godtear on the channel, some more Underworlds, obviously. That is what we're known for most.
Yes.
Necromunda, we definitely want to get some of that on. I think at some point we're going to have to look at getting the new Warband models built and involved as well.
We've got a living god in the chat, Pete. A living god.
What's he
I guess
now?
it's closing the name.
What's
He says
now?
he's a humble miniatures painting living god. Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Excellent. What sort of stuff do you paint, Dave? I'm intrigued. What are you painting at the moment? I'm painting not Morgox. I'm painting the Mad Mob at the moment.
You'd rather spit than paint Morgox.
Yeah, I'm painting the Mad Mob at the moment. Oh, we'll have a giveaway soon. Look out for a giveaway because Games Workshop sent me, having a week late, or over a week late, sent me a copy of Headcracker's Mad Mob, which is very nice, and thank you very much. Today I got a second copy, so we already bought our copy. So soon there will be a giveaway for a Mad Mob and the Silent Menace cards. But we'll do a ordinary video for that, and then you can competition rules, whatever. But look out for that. Exciting stuff. Dave is working on 40k and Age of Sigmar, painting 10 Orc Bad Moon knobs at the moment. Oh, you should talk to our patron Unitin, who is he's painting, seems to have been painting orcs forever.
And possibly Nerdy Rob, who painted Gazgo and had
that
in white.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That was fantastic.
Absolutely.
I mean, painting is something that I wish I could do more of. I know I'm a bit shit at it, and I tend to go the contrast route now. Just slap some colours on, it'll be fine. And I do work on trying to get a bit more detail into it. But I think I've come to peace with my level of painting ability. So I'm happy now that I can paint something, and it might not be great, but I'm quite happy to say it's good enough. I'm happy with that. I've entered that Zen phase of I've painted it. It's not going to win me a golden demon, but I don't care. I've done what I wanted to do. But now I'm at that point where I don't actually have the time to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think your painting is pretty solid considering how little time you do spend painting it. I think I'm always like, well, I spent hours doing mine and they don't really look any better.
Well, I find it's getting that key of not spending too long on them as well. I find if I spend too long on a model, I'll end up fucking stuff up on it and making it worse. So it's like just...
Yeah, also, I think if you spend a long time on it, you feel like you've invested more and therefore it should look better.
Yeah.
Whereas the Godtear miniatures that I painted in about 10 minutes by dry brushing 3 colours onto them, I was like, oh, these are good. I mean, they're not, but yeah, they look okay. Whereas the Mad Mob that I'm painting, that I spent a long time doing, I'm going to be like, well, I could see the bit where I missed that, and that wasn't meant to look like that. And so because you spent longer with them, you become more critical, I think. Noctis's Godtear should be arriving tomorrow. Well, let us know what you think of it, Noctis, when you've played a game.
Which one did you order, Noctis?
To say, go back to ask the same question.
Ah. Yeah, I got the other thing I liked is the fact that we got given 2 boxes, which was very nice of Steamforged. So I got this one. I got the Eternal Glade Star set, and you got the other one, didn't you, Robin?
I did. Is that the Borderlands? Is it called Borderlands? Yes, I did. That's in the garage, so I can't show it off.
And I like the fact that we took one warband from each and just set them up against each other straight away.
The Borderlands Star set, yes. Yeah, just that you can just basically take any warbands and just crash them together, which is really nice.
One plus side that you do get from the Steamforged stuff, although it is lower quality on the miniature detail front, is that means that it's easier to paint in some ways because you can slap some colours on, and if you're not sure about it, it doesn't really matter that much because it's not that obvious. Whereas with GW models, there's so much detail on there, it's very obvious when you've painted something a colour it shouldn't be quite often.
Well, yeah, yes. As an example of that, I don't really know how I missed it first time. I painted the flesh colour on one of the Mad Mob, and then I realised when I was going to do the highlights yesterday that he's actually got bone attached to his. I think they're through his skin, almost like a piercing. Oh. But I completely missed the bones. So they're basically skin colour at the moment. So I've got to go back and then try and rescue that.
It's deciding how much do I care that this isn't the right colour. And I definitely on the vampires, when I painted them, there were definitely bits like they've got little vials hanging off of their belt and stuff like that, and they just got painted black, like the colour of the trousers. Like, fuck it, I don't care.
Yeah, I did that. That was some of the Underworlds minis, not Underworlds, Necromunda minis.
Yeah.
For the Escher, I think it was possibly the Lac. They have little vials as well. I was like, I'm just gonna paint those silver. There's no liquid in there. It's just all silver.
So Noxus, have you played any games of it yet, or are you experimenting with it for the first time once you get it? Because I mean, you will be able to from getting the box delivered to playing game is like, I mean, Underworld is meant to be quick. Godtear will be like 10 minutes.
Actually, I have to say, we did play it a little bit wrong, but the Godtear had one of the best out of the box to a game sort of times I can think of that we played recently. That's not a kids game, because you just get it out of the box and it just kind of makes sense. I read through the rules once. And it played okay. And we got a couple of things wrong, but we found those out, I think. I mean, you always find things as you go, don't you? And so I was really quite impressed with that. And that is one of the things that Steamforge pride themselves on. I remember when we talked to them about Bard Song, he said, "Oh, you know, what we they call it the Christmas tree test,
something like
basically. Can you play it or the Christmas Day test or something like that? Can you unwrap it from under the Christmas tree and get playing it within 10 or 15 minutes? That's what they aim at.
Which you definitely can.
They compare it to 40k. If you open 40k, you won't be playing it till New Year's Day by the time you've set up all the miniatures, whereas they aim
that'll just be to assemble them.
Faster play. Yeah, exactly. They aim to have faster play out of the box games. Cheers, VJ.
Have a good run,
VJ's out for his run. Noxus and his partner played the starter boxes on TTS, decided to get both starters and 2 other warbands we thought looks the best. Cool. Well, do let us know how you get on.
Yes.
And we'll let you know how we go on in the form of a video.
I would definitely suggest play with just one warband each, because the games are so quick. You can play one warband each and get just a feel for the rules. Then you can chuck another.
It looks like they played on TTS. They played on TTS.
They probably already know. They already know what they're doing.
Probably, yeah.
Can you record a video and show it to us so we can work it out?
Well, it'd be a fun game to play on TTS.
I think it would be less headachy.
Yeah.
Less headachy than Underworlds. Underworlds definitely has a bit of it. It's a bit of a headache when it comes to your decks and your monitoring your cards and your tokens and stuff like that, which when we played our games against each other in person again, most of that went away.
Killer. It was a killer.
Yeah.
And you haven't got, I think, sorry.
Go on.
Well, I was going to say you've got one less kind of bookkeeping thing to do in your head when you're playing Godtear. When you're playing Underworld, I kind of did say this earlier, but you have to, not only do you have to know what's going on in your hand, what cards you've got coming, what cards you've put on what fighter, what bonuses each fighter get, what tokens they might have or might not have. You've also got that. You've got to know on your opponent what your opponent has played, what they're going to play, what they might play. You haven't really got that in Godtear. So you've got less mental bookkeeping to do. You literally, they have the same skills, and they have the same skills at the end of the game as they had at the beginning of the game, which I quite like.
Yeah. There was no massive diversion from the starting state. There was some bits where it veered off a little bit. You had a few pluses here or there, or a few minuses, but they didn't hang around for too long, and they didn't get out of control, which I quite liked.
No, Noxus says he enjoyed it a lot, and his partner's new to board games picked it up really well. So the entry to board game is definitely a lot easier than Beastgrave. Yeah, that's an interesting point actually, Noxus. Our friend Not Stew, who's appeared in a few of our videos, he is sadly has been made redundant, so he'll have some free time soon. So I'm going to try and play some games with him and record those. And I had actually thought, I wasn't ever going to try and play Underworlds with him because the entry level is too high. He loves to play board games. He's one of our role playing group, but the entry level and the investment is too high up front for him, for his style of play. Whereas I actually thought he would probably get into and be very good at Godtear. Because he's good at games. He needs a very small activation energy, as us chemists say, to get him going.
And also another factor that we might be able to use to get Stu involved is that we might be able to start playing in this very soon.
In what?
La that. Look at
Oh, I
that.
can't see it because I'm watching you on Discord, and I haven't got the video running.
But it's a
What is it?
picture. It's the picture of.
Is it a picture of my garden?
It is. Look at that. It's
Is it
your
is it the,
studio.
is it the most up-to-date picture?
It is the most up-to-date picture with walls. Well, sort
Brilliant.
of walls.
Brilliant.
So I mean, it looks. I mean, people are probably looking at this picture going, "You're building a shed." I mean, it's massive though. It's like 14 by 9 foot. I think you say.
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah, that. Yeah, he's actually made it to fit the gap.
Nice.
So it's about four, because I said, because I had originally ordered one that was 14 by 8, which is the closest I could get to fit in the gap. And then my next door neighbour, while I'd done that, my next door neighbour said, "Oh, I know a guy who can build those," and he just built my next door neighbour like a proper shed, an actual shed, in about 3 days. I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's pretty good." And so he started work on our garden, in our garden last week, and that's what the result so far. And he's built exactly into that space. That's where I wanted it to go. So I'm not quite sure exactly how big it is, but it's roughly 14 by 9.
And it's going to be
So,
double glazed. It's going to be insulated. It's going to be soundproofing. We're going to have. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be awesome.
Will it be warm in the garage? It will be, Noxus. It's going to be toasty warm because it's going to have insulation in it. It's got insulation in the floor. It's going to have it in the walls and the ceiling and everything. I'll get rid of that
Fully
picture.
insulated.
There we go.
Heaters, and then so looking forward to playing it. I mean, and it's the thing I ordered was like a lead time of 12 to 18 weeks, so it wasn't going to come till sort of September, October. But so this guy said, "Oh yeah, I could do that. Oh yeah, I could start next week." Brilliant.
Okay.
Off we go.
And at some point, it's
Like,
going to have.
Shit! I better find some money.
And at some point, it's going to have full electricity and wide internet out there as well.
That's the plan.
That's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and probably a bed. My wife gets fed up with me doing the stuff I have to go and live out there. We have the comment from Dropbear. We made Godtear sound intriguing enough this evening that he will definitely try and get some demo games of it at my FLGS. I totally recommend doing that. I can really totally see it's a great game to play at a game store, or like a club night or whatever, because it's quick. And you can, if you all bring a warband, then you can, if you've got enough warbands between you, you can make an interesting mix-up.
Yeah, there's no restriction on what warbands go with what either. So, which seems a bit weird. You could have some kind of undead warband next to a dwarf warband next to an orc warband or something weird and funky like that. But it doesn't matter because the games are only like 45 minutes to an hour, and then you can just mix them up and play a new one. Yeah.
So, and you can kind of mix and match each other's models, because again, you haven't got that sort of backstage investment where you've had to build a deck. If somebody, so people often talk about how can I get people who are into Underworld into it. I want to build balanced decks or whatever. You haven't got that problem. You basically, you could just take whatever and play. So that's a really good thing for it.
The only issue I can see you might get in Godtear is there might be more powerful 3 fighter or 3 warband combinations. So you do have 3 warbands, which is a bit different to Underworlds, but a warband is only effectively kind of like 2 models anyway, because you have a champion and then you have your followers. So you can have up to 3 warbands. There might be some certain combinations which are, broken or,
time will tell. I believe that Guild Ball, which was their game which now they no longer support, but I believe that was very well balanced. Yeah. And almost was its undoing, because people didn't need to keep buying stuff because they had a perfectly balanced game that worked. So they didn't need to buy more things, which is a bit of a shame in some ways. But maybe it's well balanced. But you're right, there could be a deadly combination. I don't know. I suppose as a disadvantage potentially, although we're really talking on top of my head here, which is very powerful, of course. I feel like it will be harder to add a restricted list or whatever to a warband, because you've got less moving parts, so you can't really change as much. You can't really weaken an ability like you can. You can restrict a card in Underworlds or ban a card in Underworlds, but if one ability is far more powerful, you can't really errata it or FAQ it or whatever in the same way.
but it's not. You don't have the same investment either. So if one warband is particularly, excuse me, is particularly much better than other warbands, you can just sort of agree amongst yourselves as friends. You know, we're not going to play with that warband because they're just a bit too over the top.
Yeah.
Or
Noxie says he loves the Morrigan rules, Pete, but hasn't heard best things compared to the other warbands. So maybe you picked Duff Warband again.
I do think Morrigan's got a bit of a swingy ability in that if you can get it to go off, you've insta-killed your opponent's champion, which can be a massive plus. But if it doesn't, it's almost fuck all use. Having said that, our games weren't particularly one-sided, and we'd fluffed up the rule about the loser getting to pick who goes first or second the next time.
Could have gone either way.
Which could make a massive difference.
And I think if I'd missed one of the attacks in the last turn, I think you'd have won, I think.
Possibly, yeah. And I hadn't really realised this, because I think to get Morrigan to do her super duper smashy attack, you want to do a few other abilities before that to key it all up so you're ready to go. And I hadn't done that. I'd missed that setup each time. So knowing that now, it might be a very different
it's definitely a learning curve. Also, things like, had you realised that I had a super duper ability that meant I could attack more than one person in a hex, you may not have put two people in a hex.
Yeah, or worked earlier to get them away, kind of thing.
Yeah,
but it worked exactly how you wanted without giving anything away in the game. There were definitely aspects of that game where it just fell into place for what you wanted it to do.
Yeah. Well, I did use we talked about the movement being important. I did actually use my fighters to make you have to do what I wanted you to do in order to make that attack. So it did show that the mechanics of the game work.
Yeah, I think had I realised some of that, I possibly, because I got to place the objective tiles, possibly I could have placed them a bit differently to screw you up a bit more. So there's definitely
some learning in there, which I really like, and we will learn how best to use and there's different scenarios as well, different things happen, but we will definitely learn how best to use the tools that we're given to make the games more technically interesting.
I already looked at the cards for the next warband, because I've got this one which looks a bit like she's kind of a bit like a, I don't know what she looks like. She kind of looks a bit like a halfling.
She looks like a shepherdess.
She's a bit like that. She looks a bit druidic, but she's got the quartz, the rock golem things. But she's got a really nice ability already, which I read it, and I already, just by reading the card, I already thought, I know I can see how I can use that already in the game. That's going to be a real bastard when I pull that off, and you're going to be going, you got what? That's not fair.
Are you not going to tell me what it is?
Nope.
Okay. I should ask you at the beginning of the game what the.
It's basically an ability where if you've got a quartzling next to a objective hex, you can remove the quartzling, put an objective hex down there, and if it's within 2 hexes of your boss, she can put a banner on it straight away.
Oh.
So you can have someone right in the back of your... so you can have... If you can get the positioning right on that, you could have an objective or a banner placed miles away from wherever your champion is, so you've got no hope of getting to it, and then just work on stopping your opponent from getting to do theirs.
Yeah. Noxtis has pointed out in the chat that there is a sneaky Pete warband as well.
Yeah, it looks a bit like a sort of hobgoblin, steampunk goblin kind of thing. Sneaky Pete.
There you go. If you get yourself a steampunk outfit, you're halfway there.
Yeah, and it does look... I don't know if they based it off of the TV series Sneaky Pete or what. Because there's a TV series called Sneaky Pete, which has the guy in who played Phoebe's brother in Friends. And that's all I can see.
Yes, I forgot about that.
But I mean, the Sneaky Pete warband does look pretty cool. I like the look of the models in that.
Yeah, I definitely want to see some more warbands, but we'll have to see, fit it into our busy schedule.
Yeah.
Which is exciting to get in the studio, and that would be really good because we can set things up and play more easily than we do. At the moment, every time we go in, we have to get all the bikes out of the garage. I have to put all the cameras, set all the cameras up.
We've got space. It's like we've got to pick these boxes up and then put these boxes down, and it's a bit like those puzzles where you've got 9 squares and 4 image tiles, and you have to move. It's a bit hodgepodge at the minute, so hopefully.
So it'd be really great when we have a dedicated area that's not freezing cold to just play, and hopefully it should be a few out of Thursday evening videos as well, because it'd be easy for me to record stuff.
Yeah.
Because even even getting into the garage on my own can be tough. So yeah, looking forward. Should be onwards and upwards for the Ages of Sigmar.
I mean,
but we need to work out how to get more people in for live chat because it's only been about 13, 14 people tonight.
I suspect it might be the subject. Maybe it's the subject.
Yeah, we need to see if we can get a big Godtear following. 'Cause it's a good game.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I'm really hoping that people enjoy it because I can see it being a very low effort but high enjoyment tactical sort of venture. So
low effort, high enjoyment. That's what we're looking for.
That's my watchwords in life, and I think it's just because Steamforged Games are just a smaller company to Underworlds. I think that's just the thing. GW are much bigger. Like things like 40k. Our Necromunda videos, I think, do better than our Underworlds videos because I think Necromunda has such a big following in comparison to Underworlds. I mean, you go to like the Facebook groups for Necromunda, and there's tens of thousands of people on there, when there's only like, thousands of people in the other in the Underworlds Facebook groups. So I think it's just a numbers game.
More Necromunda then.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's another thing.
Yeah, Red Rose, I don't think encourage means what you think it means.
If you think encourage means make people vomit into their tea, then maybe. You know what that means as well, Robin, with the studio? You could put a kettle out there.
Good.
You could have a kettle out there.
Good. There's no water there. But
you could just bring a bottle of water out with you, couldn't you? Because you could bring your milk out anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I need a fridge, don't I?
Oh, yeah. It'd just be easier.
Get it plumbed in.
You are still here, and we love you for it.
Tim's still here, even though we're not naked.
I suspect
that is dedication. That is dedication for you. I'm glad you're still here, Tim.
I am too. I suspect nearly everybody in this channel right now are part of our Patreon sort of setup, which we love.
Tim, I reckon you probably enjoy Godtear because you like a good tactical tussle, but I do feel like you couldn't do crazy deck building with it. But I think you, and there is an Orcish warband which I will be playing, probably not this game but the next game because it's not painted yet. But there is an Orcish warband. So and Andrew's still here, and even on his week of his wedding,
that's dedication.
He's here watching. He's watching, which is very nice.
Red Rose says they've got nearly every box of Godtear but not played a game. Play a game now. I mean, you guys liked Warcry and play that. This is, I would say, it's possibly even better than Warcry. Yeah.
Oh, Joe Wrigley's here. He's not part of the Patreon.
Oh, okay.
Well, Joe, have you heard about our incentive offers?
Which does remind me, all of our patrons do enter our monthly competitions. 30 quid of virtual, of versatile terrain vouchers could be winging their way to you next week.
Yeah, Joel, if you become a patron, you could win £30 worth of.
Just saying.
Worth thinking about. But thank you for watching, Joel. I'm only joking.
We are joking. Thank you for tuning in, regardless.
Yeah, Red Rose, you could make some good videos on the old Godtear stuff.
Yeah.
And you got it during COVID. Yeah.
It's I think next week, I'm not sure if we're going to be live next week because we are going to start introducing once a month. We're going to have our chats on Tuesday night, but it's going to be on our Patreon Discord instead.
It's actually going to be a conversation.
Yes, so everybody else will be able to join in chat.
Yeah, that's going to be the first Tuesday of the month, isn't it?
Probably somewhere around that kind of setup. Whether it's hard and fast, that all depends on what other releases come out and stuff.
That's true.
Things like that. But we're going to be doing that because we're going to be announcing the winner of our monthly competition because we do have a Patreon only competition every month to give different things away. So we'll be
no live chat next week.
Yeah,
no live chat next week, but we'll be back the week after. Having probably played the Reapers by then.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh yes, Canaan's Reap. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to them. That's if GW ever send them to us. We're probably still going to get our pre-orders that we've made through your LFGS before we get anything from GW.
Probably, yeah.
Not that I'm bitter. They're sending us free stuff. Very, very
and
grateful
of course,
for that.
I mean it's getting late, but of course this weekend they're going to announce they're going to go through the Dominion box.
Yeah.
And they do need a new thesaurus though.
They need to start another letter.
Indomitus and Dominion.
I wonder if they if they only got one, they got like one of those. You can get the thesaurus collections, which are like one book is for each letter of the alphabet. Like Joey ended up getting V, and that's what he got. They only got D, And that's all they've got. So they got, yeah, I don't know.
To be fair, Indominus does begin with an I.
True. Good point.
Yeah, but it's still the same word. Kanan is out this Saturday, so Iron's probably up for pre-order and spoiled next week. Oh, don't.
Just so much. It's relentless at the minute.
I really hope it's not. I really hope they at least give it to the end of June, because I can't cope.
Yeah. Well, even if they do, we're probably still going to do our Patreon.
I can't cope with seeing other people make all these amazing bits of content for all this new stuff, and I'm just like a gibbering wreck. I've got no idea what the cards are.
Yeah.
Can't go with it anymore.
Started to reach that level of sort of like.
Don't you know I'm nearly 50? Leave me alone, Games Workshop.
What's the word I'm trying to think of? You get so bombarded by stuff, you just stop caring about any of it. I'm trying to think of what that word is. You get that fatigue setting of just
like punch drunk.
It is a bit like it's just more stuff, more stuff. Oh, just leave us alone.
Yeah, I do feel like that.
Life,
right?
It is life, John. It is life.
Life. That's the word you're looking for.
To be fair, these are first world problems. These are definitely not the kinds of things that are.
Oh.
But yeah, you go.
Andrew's got his deck ready for Thursday. I'm playing Andrew in our Patreon-only league. I played my first game today, and I managed to be the first person to lose this season, or possibly any season, to the eyes of the nine. So well done, me. Yeah.
See, another good way of joining the Patreon league. You can join our TTS tournament, and you can beat us if you can have games.
Not hard. If you get the difficult bit is getting drawn in our group.
Yeah.
Once you've done that, you're most of the way there.
There is
burnout. Burnout.
Yeah, it is kind of burnout. I think it is. It's just just so much relentless releasing.
Aren't you meant to be running? How are you typing and running at the same time?
Yeah, he said he was running and listening in, but he's lying. He's running and typing. He's running along, typing as he's going. He's just going to go.
Don't run into anything.
Straight into a wall for dunk. Right, well, I think it is probably time for us to say good night and God bless to everybody. Thank you for everybody who did tune in. We love all of you.
Love having you. Yeah, you're all wonderful.
And so we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Like I say, we won't be doing our live chat next week, but all our Patreons, do check us out. We will be on Discord. Everybody can join in for the chat then. It was a great chat last time. We had about 10 of us there. Everybody was coming out with some great stuff. So
yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. So we thought we'd make it a regular feature for patrons only. So yeah, if you are a patron, hopefully we'll see you next week over there. Yep. And if you're not, perhaps consider joining in as well. We'll be announcing the winner of our monthly draw, and we will. So cheers, guys. It's not just the people who are going to be on the chat that will be entered into the draw. You can obviously join ahead of time, obviously, but that's probably obvious. We're going to announce the winner. Yes. So thank you everybody for joining in. Love it, and really looking forward to more stuff in the future. Godtear, Underworlds, Necromunda, Blitz Bowl, whatever else we can. Sorry? Everything, all the games. Yes, pretty much. Yeah, but not iOS or 40k. Boo. Only because we're bitter and we haven't got the time to be able to dedicate to that kind of stuff anymore. Yeah, or the mental ability to play them. Pretty much. Yeah. Cheers, everyone. See you soon.